Welcome back, dear friends. VCT Stage 2 Challengers Week 1. Doug, Lex, first map, absolute banger. And I have good news. We've got more Immortals and Anbox fighting for tournament life, knowing that there's a real sweet prize at the end of this bad boy that they're all fighting to get towards. And Lex, you know, we talked about this a bit before going to break. Immortals responded with a grit that I think you, in my opinion, and I'd love your thoughts on this, as someone who's been around the space for a long time too, you only see that kind of grit out of top like championship teams who've been there before, who have gotten hit in the mouth a few times, and they know how to respond.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to the depth that this roster has, where Immortals, I don't necessarily think that Inbox outclasses them in any capacity necessarily, but no matter who they're up against, Immortals always seems to be able to put up, you know, as they lost to Cloud9 Blue earlier today, I'm thinking maybe it's not always a terrific fight, but, you know, I think the scoreline was like 13-3 against Cloud9 Blue earlier to start the day off, right? It was map 1 was Ascent, which is why I'm bringing it up, but Immortals, to me, going into this matchup, looked like they were going to dominate. You know, Anbox, this is no slight towards them at all, just Immortals looks like they're going to continue the dominance that they've shown us here in recent weeks, and instead they kind of faltered a bit against Cloud9 Blue and let Anbox at times in this last map I think exceed my expectations personally, but definitely they were able to rebound several times and ultimately take the map, Doug.
Now tell me this, I know you mentioned Ascent is on the other side as we see some of the stats from what we just saw on Split. Again, an excellent performance from both squads, but ultimately it was Immortals who was able to adjust in the 11th hour to take away the win. And look, actually, I'm not ready to talk about Ascent yet. I lied. Can we talk about my boy Ye?
Yeah.
Like, the Battle Sage putting on a clinic, man. 30 kill, a 30 bomb against Immortals on the Sage.
Yeah.
Like, dang, that's good, man.
I never fail to notice Ye on the scoreboard, not necessarily because he's always putting up the top numbers, but he's just a player who you can expect consistently to put up numbers. And the fact that you've got him on a support role, you've got him on a battle stage, we saw it. Our beautiful observers caught it a few times throughout that game where, you know, the early aggression coming out from battle stage, making the difference in a round. It's not necessarily like crazy unheard of. Not like nobody ever plays aggressive with Sage. But as you're kind of alluding to, being able to put up 30, you know, to put it on an actual number, especially when you lose a map, it's a little bit, you know, it tests the strength of I think, you know, your ability to rebound mentally and just, you know, I don't want to call it ELO hell, but you're certainly in a situation where it's like, dude, I put everything on the line, I did everything I could, and yet we still fell short. It's tragic. Got to carry into that into map 2, though.
And you know, we'll see kind of what they have. Let's take a look at the maps one more time. You know, you mentioned we would see how things play out on map 2. We are going to be going to Ascent as we see Split behind us. An excellent performance, as we mentioned, out of Immortals 13-3 win, but now we're cooking things over to Ascent. And as you mentioned, Lex, this is Immortals map pick, and we saw against Cloud9, well, we saw why, right? Like 13-3 against Cloud9, an absolute clinic on how to play the map.
Yeah, and kind of along the same vein, you got Anbox played 100 Thieves here this morning, losing 13-7. I think both of those matchups are kind of why I keep bringing this back up, where Immortals definitely is solidified as favorites here today for me. Yet, the fact is, both teams have potentially seen each other play in you know, during the last series or whatever, looking through the VODs, seeing what the opponents were doing. That may come to play here, where you can at least expect to counter strat some pistols or you know, make some reads off of information that otherwise you wouldn't know about. And so, having said that, I don't necessarily want to look at those score lines from earlier today as a complete beacon for whether or not this is going to be a close match or not, because on paper, Doug, this should be Immortals map.
It should. We'll see. We are in Agent Select. Let's hop over and see what these teams are going to be cooking up for what potentially could be the very last map of the night. This very well could be where, you know, potentially Inbox is sent home. We'll see what they have to respond. Composition starting to come up. You see Ye again after the performance he just had on the Sage. Why the heck not bringing it back out? Now, one quick difference. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Lex. Rossi's on the Astra this time around. JC Stanley on the Jet. Well, what do you think?
I don't know what to think about it, Doug. It doesn't make any sense to me. Immortals does this constantly, just shuffling all the agents around, and it works for them. So I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say anything like, oh man, really they're going to be battling consistency, swapping their agents around. Clearly they're comfortable doing this. And even moving JC Stanley over to the Jet, you really are going to see, at least we saw earlier today against Cloud9, him absolutely popping off with it. So despite how well we've seen Chemicals on Jet in this series alone, moving quickly over to a Killjoy in between maps, yeah, no big deal to him. Rossi moving from Breach to the Astra. It's madness to me when we're thinking about just how much depth a roster has to have to play like this. But, like I said, they're comfortable doing it.
Well, now tell me this, Lex. What? You've built teams, right? In the year that Valorant's been around, you have built teams to compete in this game. What value is there in having a roster that can do that, right? Where you have a guy, well, and really you have 5 guys who one round or one map can play Killjoy, then they can pop over to Jet, then they can play Astra. Like they can do anything. What value does that bring?
I think in terms of value, I think it's absolutely huge, but it's got to depend on a few things, not only your IGL, but probably they're leaning on coaching staff to be able to make sure that people are all on the same page, heavy practice schedules, being able to kind of grind through scrims, swap out roles, and have it feel as though you're gelling, you're finding some comfort together on these different, maps, agents, compositions, whatever. And, moving into this pistol, I think it's going to be as important to see Andbox on the other side of things. They've swapped some of the agents around. You don't necessarily have the same depth. You're not rocking a new Astra agent. Not as much mystery going on, but an early B main presence here from Immortals. A little bit towards mid, but I don't imagine with a naked side of the map over towards A. This will eventually end B, Doug.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. They're taking the middle of the map. The wall's gone up, but look at how much space Immortals have taken. The gravity wall's going to be used. Nice shot out of Ye to take care of JC Stanley early on. Immortals looking to try to get onto the B site, but the problem is Andbox has 2 players anchored on there, and I say it's a problem, and it seems to be paying off. Chemicals trying to keep the round alive here. He's going to get flashed up. He's still going to land the shot. How does he do it? 24 health left, not enough to get the rest of it. Vice is the one who, through that chaos, is the last one standing. Andbox won the pistol.
That is just playing the angles perfectly from Ye. You see this first headshot come out, and even 15 seconds, 16 seconds, almost 20 seconds worth of time has just been bought by Ye surviving on the side. He finds that second frag, and Andbox just bleeding away the opposition. War of attrition occurring there as one by one the members of the Immortals do fall before they're able to put this spike down. So an extremely light buy in round 2 here for Immortals. Sandbox takes round 1, which they are 2 for 2, make that 3 for 3 in pistols here today, Doug.
Yep.
That'll help.
Yep, that certainly will add up. Immortals here leaning heavy towards A this time around. Seems like they've gotten onto the site with ease, right? Like they should be able to get the wall down. Shooting into the Astra smoke, they're going to get the spike down. It's gritty, but they've done it. Now it's on Immortals with the gun advantage. What can they do to take it back? This is not a done deal, Lex.
Not at all, but the pistols are just always pressed into these weird fights. You got a little bit of a classic burst coming off. 1-2 frags for Immortals, and now it's just Rossi maintaining his position over here towards Hell. Finds another one, but a little bit of a costly retake there for Andbox, but nevertheless, 2 will live. Get that early res here for Sage. He's just 1 off now from being able to do that, so we move into this bonus here for Andbox. You don't necessarily have an initiation ultimate to work with. Don't have anything where you're going to be able to open rounds with it, but certainly potentially finishing them. That res may come into play. And I think, Lex, one thing to point out is, Ye, again, right? Like,
2 rounds in, he's already at 4-1, and this was the pace with which he played in the previous map. That's what led to his 30 bomb. So if he's able to continue these kind of numbers, I mean, this very well might go down to the wire, much like we saw in Split.
Absolutely. I think Anbox is a team that's going to lean heavily on him no matter what agent he's playing, map it's on, composition that they're running. It's just that kind of a player, and we'll look to the other players on this roster. Actually, as I say that, JC Standing taking a brawl over there at mid, finding 2 of 3. Mata still lives. Drops that curveball. Hot hands to follow.
That hurts. Yeah, that doesn't feel good, man. Chemicals cleaning that up, as you said. Gravity well, Vice managing to get away. And the thing is, Immortals have a free sight. Like, so there is a good bit of utility that they're going to have to walk through to get onto A. So Vice may be able to impede things at least for a little while. There it is. The Nanoswarm's going to come out, but they're just going to wait it out, right? Meanwhile, if you're EA, you've got to bust it over to A here as soon as you can. Vice is just trying to stay alive and not able to do so. Just getting peppered everywhere. Ye alone here. He's going to drop, not able to put up those heroics or not able to continue those. At least, so Immortals are going to get onto the board, or get on the board, excuse me. And Anbox now, they should have a good bit to work with. Now we're going to see both these teams from a relative position of strength.
Yeah, and they do have the Cosmic Divide to work with, so having that on Rossi and then kind of an execute here for Immortals will be strong. You got to run it back on Mata. So interesting to see what they do with it here, Cosmic Divide that is, or whether or not they even try and execute with it in this round as they're spreading out of the default to start. 2 players at each main. A little bit of damage into the face of Gangsta from a shock dart. Mata will run it back immediately at A main for the information. A little bit of an A main contest, and he quickly gets sent back to his body.
Yeah, not getting very much there at all, Lex. He may have spotted one player, but even then, that's not the spike. They didn't get a ton of other information other than that. It's just not a very fruitful run back.
Yeah, and Immortals lucky to get away with that there, and you do tempted to grab that orb and get his blade storm over JC Standing, realizing that there's not a whole lot of use for that at the moment with a Phantom in hand, but that Cosmic Divide may be coming out here in just a moment as Rossi and a few other Immortals players are regrouping towards A main, and there are 3 players from Anbox awaiting them here.
Here we go.
Turret's destroyed.
Turret's going to spot one. Vice playing tight. The paranoia comes out. See if he can deliver anything with that Bucky, waiting patiently. And my gosh, he doesn't have to, right? Seb's there, good for 2. They can continue to just hold this cross, not let anyone in. With 26 seconds left, they've got to commit to A. Like, they don't have a choice. The Cosmic Divide goes up. That's going to buy them a little bit of space, but they're going to have to push their way through that. Gangsta trying to blast his way through. Catch one. The flash is going to come out. Ye's going to get the res on, but things just absolutely get shredded apart for Immortals.
Didn't even look close. Didn't even get close to leaving A main at that point. You know, we quickly highlighted it just before the execute came in that there was 3 players there waiting that push from Immortals. But really, and this kind of goes back to Split as well, I am always so impressed at Seb's ability to anchor sites. You know, a lot of the time he's taking first contact or playing off a teammate and setting his teammates up to succeed. But right there, just immediately, you know, rocking a crouch spraying Phantom over there at the front of Generator finds 2 heads. And it's like, okay, both your entries are down. You got 30 seconds left. What next?
Oh, wow. JC Standing dropping instantly. He had the Blade Storm, right? And it's just instantly nullified.
I love it.
Ye already good for 2. Again, padding the stats even more. He's going to drop a numbers advantage for Anbox.
You should run.
I love seeing Sage on this map for that exact reason. Get to that in a second as the Killjoy ult does come out. Boy has shock darts onto it. He does not get it though.
Oh.
Actually, as I say that, Seb does hit from the shadows deep into the spawn to at least silence it before it goes off.
They're trapped. Lex, they're trapped. They have nowhere to go. The only option is to get into B, right? And the spike hasn't even followed. Yeah, there are smokes blocking off market, but they're going to be able to pinch in from a couple of different sides. This has to be like a Defense of the Alamo type performance out of Immortals to try to keep them off of B because they're going to be coming right at them. No ultimates in mind for the rest of this round. Just a straight up 3v3. Decent health bars across the board. What can Anbox do to take this back? Seb, already good for one. Rossi in a great spot to get 3.
And the enemy was
What a play.
That's beautiful right there. And, you know, they couldn't have known this, but you were saying it succinctly, Doug, where for Anbox on this retake, there was a moment where it really didn't even seem like the spike could go down. There was no way that they could even get it into the site, and yet Anbox being pushed back, just missing that timing window for just a few moments for Rossi to bring that spike into the site. And there it is, cleaning up with 3 on the round. Well played to him. But I'm beyond impressed by Anbox's ability to get it to that point. Mortals answering back. You know, I would describe that as a strong answer, but really, I mean, it did not look clean for a vast portion of that round at all.
But you know, Lex, it's a lot like Split, right? Like, there were moments where it was scrappy, but they walked away with the dub, and the ability to play through those scrappy moments where it's not always pretty, but you're getting what you need. That's money right there. They dash onto the site. The Reyna Lear is going to be there as well to pave the way, as it looks like Immortals, they've gotten really everything they want onto A. They're going to be able to waltz their way in. Yay. Man, Yay doesn't even get a chance. Clean shots out of Gangsters. He's got 3 on the round. Vice left alone. And, dog, I don't know that I would want this if I were Vice.
No, not at all. And I think I touched on this a little bit when we were talking about Split. But Immortals, like, this team, when they're hitting a site, they are working it with 3 or 4 players minimum. They do run splits. They do put themselves in situations to have lurkers, kind of traditional style play. But the way that they move as a unit, press into a site, they're all matching each other's tempo. The pace at which they push in, it allows for those kind of layered frags to come through where always over peeking a little bit. I think that was at Heaven, eating a couple shock darts, you know, trying to play the edge of the wall over there. Just nobody's at risk, right? When you have that utility deployed first. You're waiting for your teammates to kind of create that space for you and eliminate those angles for the defenders. And frequently you see Immortals capitalizing on it and not just being able to force them back, but, you know, we saw 3 kills coming out from Gangsta there, and oh my goodness, this Bucky, this Sheriff, Immortals who have dominated this A main kind of bout throughout this half thus far, immediately get shut down with some nice shots.
It almost went worse there, right? As Ye almost got another one. What is happening? Lex, it was Sheriffs and a Bucky across the board going into 5 rifles, and they find themselves late in the round with the numbers advantage. The thing is, Immortals have managed to pick up the spike. They're going to hightail it over towards B, and it's going to be free. There's no one there. And Gangsta's got the Hunter's Fury. So if they can get the spike down, Gangsta get to a place of safety, they can really take this, they can take this round away, but that's so much easier said than done. Right? At this point, you get the spike down, you assume there's pressure coming in at you, and you run the risk on, like, do I try to slip away here, or am I stuck?
I wouldn't be surprised if he plays the Hunter's Fury off the information from the turret when it makes contact, but Anbox wisely, or maybe unwittingly, we'll find out here in a moment, but they're electing to move as a unit, and ultimately it is going to avoid, for the most part, 1 tag coming out from the Hunter's Fury, but the retake is on now, Doug, 3-on-2.
Now, the rest of the members of Anbox did manage to pick up rifles. Chemicals, baby, 4. Give him the ace. He's in a 1v1. He's got a chance for it. Vice creeping around. Chemicals, good for it. He gets the ace, and they get the round.
Let's go, man. What a round there from Immortals. I mean, and this is kind of 2 or 3 times we've seen this from Anbox, Doug, where they open things up so strongly. Okay. And over here at A main and mid, Ye just taking a raw Sheriff duel against Rossi. Several players actually admit he's whiffing on. Finds the face of Rossi. Chemicals closes out the round with a 5-piece. Oh, you love to see it. But I think this is kind of the story of this game so far is Anbox, not too unlike Split, as we keep saying. They're finding their early kills. They're putting themselves in a position to win. And the follow-through is just sometimes not there. And yet, you know, Ye has been dominating B main throughout this entire game. It hasn't really mattered. The A main duel is where a lot of the action has come through, and Immortals almost every time has won it. Last round being the exception.
And dog, let's be honest, right? Like if I know Ye's playing at B, and I know I'm going into a dude he's feeling himself right now, and there's a wall all the time. Shoot, I'd push away from that too, right? Like I'm not going anywhere near that.
Those slow orbs make you think twice about wide swinging a Sage. Say that right now.
Right here.
All right, so Ambox have managed to get to at least as many rounds as Cloud9 did against Immortals, but now. We'll see what more they can get going. Immortals already have dropped. JC Stanley, the Cosmic Divide could be coming out here from Rossi as they're setting it up. There it is. Now, that's going to block things off from Market and from CT, but there are a couple of members that are anchored in on B. The Hunter Fury is going to come out. That's going to destroy Lockdown. Meanwhile, a counter has been used. Shot up looking for something. He gets nothing, right? He gets nothing with the Empress. There are 2 players detained. Seb, good for 1. My gosh, things went so sideways for Immortals.
Yeah, 2 players getting detained there at the end. Like, I don't know. There was at no point any hope for Immortals to get on the site and put that spike down. And yet, you know, up until the point the Cosmic Divide gets deployed, it really looked like it was Immortals out positioning Andbox, and instead 4-all now. And you're still going to get a mostly full buy here from Immortals. You do see a Bulldog and light armor on a few players, but nevertheless, you're going to get a buy out of them. So not all is lost here, but looking at the other side of the table, you do have From the Shadows and a Resurrection, but you do have that Run It Back from Mata. Hasn't yielded results yet in this matchup, but look at that here in this round, Doug.
Right there.
Well, it's a bit more forward than where we saw him use it last time. They've already taken a good bit of a long control. Meanwhile, Immortals once again just happy to take away the middle of the map, right? Like they're just going to push their way in. A great response from Seb, and somehow manages to stay alive. Looking to use some fancy footwork to get out of a tricky situation, but no, Rossi, wise to it, cleans him up. There's the Run It Back. Mata again, a chance. He got some info there, much more than he got the previous time. Much more valuable, but not landing any kills. A couple of members very weak on the side of Immortals. Mata, he's not going to get bested twice in that situation by Gangsta. Gets the kill. Rossi gets the spike down. A 3v3 and a couple members on the side of Ambox tattered as Seb joins the fold again. The thing is, with that comes information, right? Like, you know where that player died, so you know where the res is, you know where Ye is as well. JC Stanley, wise to it, cleans him up. A 3v2 here in favor of Immortals. Despite continuing to tick away. Good flash, but Shard just backs up, right? JC Stanley with 6 health left can prove to be bait, but what? Mata's good for 3. Shot up. Has to go big here. He has to tank. Oh my gosh, shut up! Tanks the hot hands into the smokes, stops the defuse. What a play!
Ping bomb for me? Okay, thank you. Got it.
My gosh!
He looks so cool in this situation, just so calm, just knowing, okay, I gotta walk through this hot hands and do sidewalk, shoot through this turret, no big deal, and I'll handle it. 7 seconds of the defuse, doesn't matter, we're good. Immortals, by the skin of their teeth, and a 1v2 from Shot Up in what should have been a clean 3-on-2 post plant. The flame wall from Mata just being able to come in, kill 3, almost sticks to defuse. That's heartbreaking if you're an Andbox fan.
Jeez, man.
Early.
Okay.
Early A-main control here for Immortals. Barrier Orb gets deployed, but immediately shot down from them.
Yeah, and this is a bit of a different look than we've seen in the past, right, Lex? They've taken all of this A-long control. You see Modest just on the other side of the smoke. He's going to play off a bit. They've got good presence on the site. But the problem is, yeah, if they get tree room, that's huge. They've taken tree room. The paranoia comes out. It's not going to delay anything as Seb drops as well. The remaining 2 members on the side of Ambox, on the opposite side of the map, they're going to rotate. By the time they get here, maybe too little too late. And boy's got a Bucky.
Boy's got a Bucky. Yeah, this is definitely not a situation for Andbox to just turn around and somehow retake this round. Probably not going to happen. Considering this is now, we're poised on potentially a 6-4 for Immortals. You know, this Phantom in the hands of Vice, and yeah, he's already backed off towards mid. It's not as easy to part ways with when we're potentially looking at losing a half, being forced to eco. he will do his best to hold for exits. A lot of this Phantom, if possible. JC Stanley will deny that, and so Immortals, who lost the pistol going into this half, haven't won one yet today, finally able to at least be putting themselves in a situation where they could win a half decisively. Potentially looking at an 8-4, considering they just forced Andbox back onto an economic crisis, a potential thrifty round here. And you know what? As I say that, the previous thrifty round for Andbox, I described it as a thrifty because, I mean, they didn't win. They didn't win the round, but there was at least 3 opening frags that really were scary for Immortals when they're slowly working this anti-eco here in round 11.
They've shown what they can do with Sheriffs, very similar. We'll see if they can replicate some of that same success, some of that magic that they had last time. Yep, all right, so far, so good. A lot of good for one, good flash. Understanding where that pressure's coming in from. But there it is, there are those rifles. No way!
Yeah.
No way, again?
This is what I'm saying, man. I don't know, but somehow Andbox looks far scarier on these rounds where they have no money. It's just massacre.
Just by Sheriffs the rest of the map.
For real, man.
In the half.
Joking, but like the brazenness of these peaks where they're just like, yeah, the smoke's gone. Let's just go ahead and swing. And actually, they had a nice crossfire going here with Mata kind of being the bait, but yay, bailing him out. Just being backed up by Boy to follow. Just beautiful kills. And Immortals has got to be kicking themselves here.
Well, yeah, and like you think about financially, well, ultimately this being the last round of the half, but they were able to take 3 rifles into the next round, right? So we'll see what they can play out here. I like this out of Immortals early on, just full send. The Blade Storm comes out, wall goes up, ults across the board. Nice shots out of JC Stanley, showing just why he can play that jet.
Despite knowing how hurt he was, this Killjoy ult, Blade Storm, the Hunter's Fury, everything getting busted out here on the entry of Immortals into this site. Shot up even with an aggressive Heaven play, finding one on the Seb. Still one more blind left.
So they had to respect the lockdown because they didn't have a counter for it. But now that it's gone down, now they're going to creep in. But the problem is so much space has already been taken away. Mata with the run it back. Good for one. Gets traded out instantly. The thing is, they have a decent idea of where they are. The flash through the wall, not going to be good. Gangsta cleans him up. One left. It's Vice. Not around for long. A 3K from shot up. Immortals take the half 7-5.
Valiant effort there near the end from Mata to at least attempt that retake. A rough half, I'd say, in all from Andbox, considering how well they started. You win pistol, you win second round. Didn't win the bonus, but still put themselves in, I think, with a 3-1 lead. Much akin to the likes of Split in the prior map, and yet 7-5 half Immortals, like I said, decisively taking the half here.
All right, and now Andbox, they've got to figure something out here, right? 7-5, they're down, but now they're going to be in a position where they can dictate the pace a bit more, right? Like, they can decide where they want to apply pressure on the map and at what times. And we've seen, we saw it in the previous map, when Andbox are playing from a place of confidence, the swagger's there, right? And Immortals had a hard time dealing with that for a good bit of Split, where it almost went Andbox's way.
Early mid pressure here on this pistol. Andbox, who have been flawless on pistols so far today, Seb with 2 huge frenzy frags to start things out. That's going to do well for prospects of Andbox in this round, is already Immortals being forced back to defender spawn, forced to retake, forced to give up market. Mata dueling with Rossi. And this is the hottest pizza joint in town as he has to bail out of that one.
Chemicals is going to drop as well. Clean shots out of Ye with the toast. Gangsta in a 1v5. A flawless round win from Andboxes. That's every pistol so far.
It's not even a meme, dude. They don't need pistol rounds. They're gonna win them. Eco rounds, when you're only using sheriffs and pistols, you're gonna win them. And that's just dude. You know what? Play to your strengths. Andbox doing it delightfully. We love to see it. 7-6 now, and Immortals back onto a broken bye.
Yeah, but Lex, like, we've seen Anbox win every pistol, and then everyone they find them, or almost everyone they find themselves in. But Immortals win everything else, right? Like,
True.
You feel some very good sponsor from Mata. You feel some of the pressure, or you normally would feel some of the pressure of going, dude, we're losing every single pistol, right? Like, when there are only 12 rounds and a half, that doesn't feel good. But Immortals seem to handle it just fine.
Dude, look at the way Anbox is even carrying their utility into this round. They have a Ghost, and a Frenzy, because that's just how they roll, man.
Yeah.
And they're doing it wonderfully.
It's not, it's not the Ghosts.
Yeah, it's just the Spectre kind of farming here, but the confidence, I think, that counts.
It is. Mata just 2 points away from having to run it back online. Closest to having that ultimate on the side of Anbox. Meanwhile, JC Stanley's left alone. He's got a Bucky, right? And that's always fun, unless you're on the receiving end of said Bucky.
Gun here.
But there's a potential for a little something like that, right? Good for one. Cloudburst tries to get a second, but it's the pistol, no less.
You know what? I would have been upset.
The round win for Anbox.
I would have been upset if he came away with the second frag there, but you know what? Valiant effort there, JC Stanley. 7's all. And this is really, you know, I think it may have been the first half of Split Doug where Anbox won pistol and the bonus. And I think that was the starting point to them having like a strong half. And I hate to always do this, but a little cliche here. Really, this may be the most important thing here for Anbox carrying out the rest of this half, where economically speaking, you know, winning a bonus, especially when you're on the attack side of a map like Ascent, where you're able to get these SMGs up close and personal. I say SMGs, like, you got Frenzy and a Phantom in play, but it'll really be the test of Immortals just able to handle and execute from Anbox.
Thanks to firing through. There are plenty of folks on the other side of that wall. And they seem to be wise to it. The spike's going to pull off. Some damage was dealt. Mata's going to walk away with just 2 armor left. Certainly not as much health as he walked in. See how they choose to play this. They have some presence over towards A. The middle of the map is open, and the thing is, Shot Up knows that, right? Like, he understands there's no pressure coming in from there. How will they play this out?
I think they were going for maybe a raw gunfight, a Phantom on Ye early on at B main, and obviously he lost it. And even, you know, Mata to some degree not being able to recontest that, being forced back by the likes of the Odin, the drone, the Dart. All those things kind of compile where, okay, we're just going to need to regroup, hit a site together, and here they are towards A. Dart cover goes out.
They should have a decent idea of where that's coming in from. You see Seb is already tagged up pretty heavily. The gravity well at the entrance to the site is so good for delaying things because you've got 10 seconds, right? You've got to go now. It looks like they should be able to get the spike down. There it is, but now they have to fight to keep control, and my gosh, things don't look good for Anbox. Boy was alone. Immortals. See, the thing is, Lex, there was no time for really them to settle and get anything going, and also the space that they took across B, the knowledge that they had across the middle of the map really telegraphs that that's where the hit's going to be, so they're able to respond quickly. They're able to stuff the push and take that back almost as quickly as they gave it up.
Oh, yeah. And I think that was Shot Up over there in A Heaven. Just the amount of damage that came out from that one magazine spray from the Phantom. Just 3 players immediately on 40 HP or less.
Yeah, Seb got messed up.
Huge amount. Oh, yeah. And all 3 of those players are suddenly unwilling to peek, unwilling to take the crossfire, knowing that, okay, let me regroup, reset. I got to play scared a little bit because I'm low HP. And virtually nobody on the side of Anbox is in any sort of position, as you mentioned, to mount a defense there. They're all uncomfortable. They are all being pushed into the corners, to the enclave, so to speak, and ultimately to their doom as, you know, early on, actually, we see B main being, okay, I say yielded, but Shut Up re-peeks it immediately. But sensing the B pressure early, 3 players from Immortals towards B. Yet the play hasn't really been decided yet from the side of Anbox.
Interesting. JC Stanley opting to use the Blade Storm with the rifle on a rifle round. It doesn't net anything early on. I believe he has two blades left. So we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, heavy pressure over towards A. The curveball is going to work their way towards 3. The gravity well was there. Rossi good for 1. Chemicals traded out. Oh man, Rossi's just so good in that spot, right? Ye's taken off the board as well. The spike still hasn't made its way onto the site. Meanwhile, everyone on the side of Immortals is here. Ambox is just gonna have to fight their way through, and that's exactly what they're doing as Vice and Boy get one apiece. Gangsta mows down Boy as Vice is left alone. He's in a brutal spot, getting shot at from both sides. Literally a rock in a hard place. Vice cleans him up. Gangsta cleans him up. Immortals take a 2-round lead.
Wow. Obviously the observer just caught all of that, so I'll just rehash it for chat.
Shout out.
How
to
impressive was this defense from Rossi, man? I mean, not only are you drawing out a whole bunch of utility to deal with you in particular, but coming away with 2 frags where there's not even a single point of damage being retaliated against you. Through a dark cover. Just impressive stuff there, and pure confidence too. To step into the dark cover, spray towards the corner, and come away with 1. That's off to him. 9-7 now. Immortals, you know, ahead by 2 for probably first time in a while, but actually, as the halftime score, you were also up by 2. So never mind. Forget that, Castor. What are you talking about? we got a drone early on. Aldron coming through B main again. And actually, there's nobody in budget because they do have a mid setup between JC, Stanny, and Rossi. It seems as though Anbox knows that when they make this B main control happen, that they're drawing rotations from Immortals and securing a lot of map control elsewhere.
Well,
but they've switched up the spots, Doug.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, Lex, I think the thing is too is Immortals is not fighting for B lobby control, right? Like they were willing to give that up. You saw the Nanoswarm on top of the Astra Star. That's generally a good combo for a Gravity Well with the Nanoswarm, which is really, I mean, absolutely brutalizes you. Entry into that site, and Anbox wise to it. Boy uses the shock dart to clear out where that Nanoswarm was, so that's not a factor anymore. They clear out that utility, and now they're going back towards A.
Right, and I think because they've sensed the Killjoy has swapped
30
sites.
seconds left.
You got to figure at some point their opening's got to be on the other side of the map, and as we're moving into this execute, the Killjoy execute comes out here, Doug.
Yeah, and Boy just got himself Hunter's Fury as well. See Rossi not in the same spot he was last time. No heroics from there. There's no counter to the lockdown. So it's going to go off with 10 seconds. You've got to get the spike down, right? Then you had to respect it. But here comes the Hunter's Fury. Rossi good for 1. He's not in tree, but he's still getting the damage that his team needs. Boy, buying himself some time. Fending off members as they try to retake the site. Nothing doing quite yet. Ambox has already dropped 1. Yay, evening things out. Shot up with the Empress is just causing so many problems, so many fits. And the thing is, the spike's just going to continue to tick away, so they've got to go. Right? Vice left alone is such a good retake from Immortals, Lex. That was beautiful.
That was a beautiful retake, but I will highlight a misstep, I think, from Anbox on a few levels. Just everybody's fumbling their utility. That hot hands went to nowhere. You had the Hunter's Fury collecting absolutely 0 tags and 0 info as the entirety of the Immortals retake basically was coming out of heaven. So you figure either of those pieces of utility are where they need to be, and I didn't see who the rest of the team was rocking, but you got to figure it was just way too easy for Immortals to walk across heaven with 3 players uncontested, and here we are, 10-7. Anbox basically got given a free A site there, and were able to come up with nothing aside from a plan.
It's a very good point. JC Staney with an operator this time around, not landing anything. But it's just automatic at this point. The Sheriff once again sings Fermata, but this time the rifles looking like they might be a bit too much. No way. All right, Ye and Seb alone in a 2v2. They have not upgraded weapons, which might be for the best at this point. Ye drops, Seb left alone. He's got the Sheriff. He doesn't have the spike. And he's picked up an operator. He's gonna get a chance. Not able to land the flick. Chemicals dispatches him. Immortals found themselves in a 2v2. Once again, victims to the brutalization of what Ambox's Sheriffs can do, but they managed to walk away tattered, but not defeated.
Hey, you know what? You as good as Sandbox's ecos have looked throughout both of these maps, I am happy if I'm Immortals walking away with what they just did. As long as you're not getting ecoed, right? Like,
Yep.
man, I hate to sound kind of like a negative Nancy here, kind of harp a negative note here for Ambox, but we joked about it once. But immediately we saw 2 side executes coming up from Ambox, and their eco round was way better than their gun round execute. I don't know how that happens, but the scoreline is showing that it may have greater ramifications on the outcome of this series as Mod immediately falls from early JC standing aggression. Yay. Thankfully able to pick up the res, but the Hunter's Fury comes out to immediately seek vengeance. And so many tags. I think I see 2 tags total.
Yep, 2 tags. JC
Not
Staney's
bad.
up. No, not bad at all. JC Staney showed proficiency with the operator at the beginning of the round. Not going to have that at hand anymore. It was picked up by Shot Up. Now, Chemicals has the lockdown, and there are no Hunter's Furies to challenge that, right? There's nothing to counter that. We'll see, again, Immortals pretty cool, pretty far off. Shot Up's shot just goes a bit wide as it doesn't land. Meanwhile, the wall's gone up. You see Seb has made his way into the back of the site. That should be pretty free entry as they get onto B. Meanwhile, the remaining members of Immortals, it's like they can approach us from a couple of different angles, but this is a really difficult retake, Lex.
Oh, absolutely. This is, you know, you look for maybe the first frag, maybe 2 here, and then you make the decision whether or not it's a go call. But
Enemy remaining.
yeah, right away you're going to see these angles are not safe for the defenders. Gangsta, who's been here the whole round, he's like, I'm not leaving. I got a node. Come here. Come to me. And as I say that, it's deleted by Ye. But man, that round started out, Doug, looking so good for Immortals. You have the pick from the operator coming out from JC Stanny. You have the Hunter's Fury from Gangsta lined up.
On the res.
Oh, yeah. And he only gets 1 tag onto the res player. And then I think maybe he was going for 2 or 3 players that were at mid. Perhaps he got the info, but not a tag originally. And he's like, dude, I'm going to get a 3-piece off this. Instead, tags the Sage, who immediately heals herself, and nothing of it, right? It was crazy to me that that went from a 5-on-4, potentially 5-on-3. Well, it was a 4-on-4 as JC Sandy got traded back out. Or sorry, a 4-on-5. Beautiful round there from Manbox and JC Sandy, who is probably a little bit peeved about how the last round went. Answers back in kind on device.
Great shot there with the operator again. Meanwhile, Mbox kind of hanging out by A, right? They're going to clear out back by Wine. No noise necessarily being made towards B. There's no like eye candy, right? There's nothing to make them think about it. But they may pull off anyway.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of information from Shot Up over at middle. But he's not even really peeking much. You got a jump spotter over in defender spawn. And so you may be
right here
seeing Immortals just kind of catch this execute that didn't work out for Manbox before. Just a moment.
JC Stanny, Blade Storm online.
Tree take.
They're going to try to rotate through. Yeah. They've managed to work their way into tree. Boy's the only one who's still playing back. A couple of kills have already dropped. JC Stanny just on the other side of smoke has to go big. No! Absolutely whips! Doesn't land anything!
Bruh. There was not a greater opportunity to seal this series up than seeing JC standing on the other side of that dark cover with his Blade Storm out and 3 players with it. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to see it again. Close my eyes for this.
You do say that, like, the hardest target to hit
Somebody's not looking at you.
Yeah, someone who's not looking at you, because it's almost like too easy there, right? But JC Stanny unfortunately comes up short. Now Immortals are absolutely broken from a financial perspective. You see a couple of sheriffs, a couple buckies. Gangsta the only one with something really to cook up. Ambox are in a great spot here, Lex.
Yeah, that's a gift. But you know what? I loved the tree call, just being able to throw us a different look on an A execute. Yay, sensing that early B main aggression. And okay, he is supported by a few teammates over here, but Shot Up, I don't think he got all that information, so
no.
Immortals basically stays in place across the map.
What do Ambox decide to do here? They take some of the middle of the map, but they're not committed either which way. It's like they're just expecting, again, Immortals with the financial straits that they're in. They're expecting some of that aggression, right? They're just defaulting out to see where they push through. You just saw Chemicals remove his turret from A, where they were expecting that aggression to come in through. Now they're going to go towards B. They do have a lockdown. You imagine in a situation like this, if that's what they want to use, look at where Chemicals is. Oh, he had a chance to come through the wall.
30 seconds left.
All right, they've gotten onto the site. Vice gets the spike down. And once again, they're anchored in. The one difference is Seb. He's in a spot where he can really blow things up if left unchecked here. And he can wait out the smoke, understanding that they're likely going to be pushing through. How much patience does Seb have? Rossi's staring right at him with the bucky. He hears them pass. Oh, it's a firing squad. Seb gets 3. Ye gets 1 as well. Oh my gosh, Ambox played that so well, Lex.
That is some timing, man. I don't know why Rossi looked away. For some reason, he thought somebody was behind him that wasn't a friend. But, Seb just reaping the greatest of fortunes with a free 3K. The patience unparalleled, and now, speaking of paralleled, we are almost drawn even now. 11-10, Ambox coming back with a strong answer in the past 3 rounds, basically, where, you know, maybe not always winning the engagements, but certainly are coming away with the round outcomes now as JC Stanny, again with an operator in hand. You see a timeout rolling out now. You have a Hunter's Fury on Boy. You know, you've got Cosmic Divide. You have a lockdown for Chemicals here, so both teams potentially with some round-winning ultimates, perhaps one more important than the other to deal with that lockdown on Boy, but ultimately I think this has been an Ambox second half, and now as Immortals has drawn this, you know, 11th round, they have yet even, I say come close, but a few close calls may have lent them that 12th round. It is yet to happen, and gotta wonder whether or not this is Ambox's map to take at this point.
Looks like a pretty default setup out of Ambox early on in Lex. I think, well, hang on. I like this aggression that we're seeing out of JC Stanny. Early on, he's postured up. He had the op. You hear him dash away, so he knows that operator's gone. Mada's going to get that, run it back online, see what he can make happen with that ultimate.
Being so careful. I love that. They immediately get the info. Okay, operators over here. Tailwind just got used. JC Stanny just reposted on the angle, and so the window will close here in a few moments, but Immortals will be sure to suspect that this... Well, as I say that, Mata has regrouped back towards B main, so they may be electing to stay, trying to play the extra mental game here, expecting Immortals to rotate towards A, and yet JC Stanny has yet to move.
You should run.
I can't help but feel like this map... Oh my god.
That's it right here, man.
Look at what they did, right? It's a dummy lockdown that draws out the other lockdown in response, but that's not where the play is. They're going towards B. The spike is going to make its way there, but Rossi has to go big. He's good for 1. He's going to drop. They're going to get onto the site. The res is going to come back up. Ambox have taken control of B, but Lex? All right, now they're going to commit to it. Ye's getting the heal. Spike goes down. This is still a straight up 5v5 too. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath. Yay gets 1. The Hunter's Fury coming out. Shot up. Trying to dodge any damage. I don't know if he's going to be able to dodge much more. No, he drops. Oh.
You got baited by the overlay, man.
Unreal.
It's all good. That was so close, though. You got to think, and that's why I kind of said it like I did, where it's like, hey, surely they regroup towards A here after sensing the operators here, and yet they are thinking ahead, recognizing that Immortals has that read now. They have that information, and we've given them all of B main. Of course they're going to rotate towards A, so let's hit B. Popping the run it back, draws out the operator shot. Tailwind has already been burned, so JC Stanny is basically out on an island all by himself. Rossi's late to the rotate. Beautiful job from Ambox to isolate that player towards B. manipulate the rotates and end at the site where ultimately Immortals was weakest. Well played to them. And now here we are, actually, Doug. Should be 11 each, right? Just an incredible performance in this second half from Anbox to kind of recover from what I would only describe as Immortals dominance up to that point.
And again, we're seeing this like early defaulty type posturing from Anbox. They'll try to get some info, maybe get a pick early on, but just being very patient.
Knowing that there's nobody towards, or at least inside of B main, this A hit potentially coming out from Anbox the next 30 seconds or so. Got Vice all the way on the other side of the map, trying to regroup his team, but press for time. The XQ's got to come through without him.
And the gravity well's there too to just buy time, right? Like, Chemicals is there with the Bucky. The Bucky sings as it gets two. Rossi swings out. Vice with great shots. So Vice good for 3. Not able to get anything more. And what else but the Bucky at the end to bring Immortals to match point. Chemicals with the 3K.
Match point.
Yeah, that seemed as though Anbox was just like, well, we haven't really been given much. And despite the fact that they dealt some early damage towards JC Sanity, they just didn't really have a firm foothold anywhere to split. They were forced into this choke point where gravity wells, any sort of killjoy utility, or even just a Bucky in the hands of Chemicals, that's just going to delay that indefinitely almost, right? Those guys are going not only through a choke point, but into like the thickest meat grinder possible. You've got all kinds of util, and as aforementioned Bucky just, okay, early B push. Is it all to do here on a set, man?
My gosh, JC Stanley with 4 looking for the ace, and the statement's made. JC Stanley mows Anbox apart. Punctuation mark on the 2-0. I mean, what a performance from Immortals across the board, Lex.
That is fun. What a way to end it. Over here trying to talk about the previous round and the B split. Sorry, the B rush. Just getting decimated by JC Stanley Immortals with a tight 2-0. Okay, both maps extremely close. Hats off to Anbox for the performance. But, Doug, just a lockdown finish to that game. An incredible ace from JC Stanley. That is fun. You love to see it.
And, like, you look at a play like that, you look at a series like this, and we saw a lot out of Immortals, right? Like, we saw them when they looked good and when they were clicking. We saw them grittily win out rounds that you kind of wonder whether or not they should have been able to. And then you have, like, what JC Stanley just did, and you take a step back, and you go, that's a complete package, right? And you understand why people are so high on Immortals and why they find themselves duking it out with the best of the best in North America consistently.
Yeah, and I think that just is a testament to how strong that lineup is, especially with the core of you know, Shot Up, JC Stanley, Gangsta, those guys who have been on the roster for a while. And with the addition of Chemicals and suddenly Rossi, they've got depth, man. And when they need to lean on it, they do. And today they showed it. They came out on top.
Well, and like, man, let's talk a bit about Rossi, right? Like, how many times did we see him? The switching of agents notwithstanding that we talked about at the beginning of this map, but Rossi answered the call, right? Really across the board, everyone did. But how many times was Rossi in a position where he needed to step up? He needed to go big for Immortals, and he delivered.
And these are like high pressure, really just coming down to individual decision making. We highlighted, you know, the Observer really is the one who highlighted that beautiful defense over a catwalk early on in the game, but just being able to make those decisions correctly when under pressure, when your team needs it the most. I mean, that's very telling of an individual, a player's character. So hats off to him to be able to just secure those rounds for his team. I mean, oh man, this coach got up in huge. This is the play I'm talking about. Just all the discipline in the world, plays it correctly, eliminates both threats to him over a tree. Oh man, Immortals really just stand out performance from every single player on this roster at various points, though.
I mean, and it's just, what more can you ask for, right? And again, we saw this was really what impressed me most from Immortals in this series is we saw them pull out, right? Like situations where things don't look good, right? Where you feel Ambox getting momentum, where you see him start to piece things together, and you think they're gonna take the map away, right? We saw it on Split, we saw it on Ascent, and Immortals at that moment, right? Like that's when they deliver, right? When it looks like Ambox is about to put them away, they respond and they do so out of strength.
Yeah, I think you can easily talk about mental strength and just whether or not you let a round that you absolutely should be winning and you don't, mentally, you can have players that get taken out of those situations that maybe are, down and out, perhaps even just not necessarily feeling as confident as they were in the round prior. Just something so small where you expect teams to fall short or maybe not rise to the occasion, and yet Immortals does frequently enough for us to talk about it, Doug. And I think that's just something where, considering how the Cloud9 series went earlier today, for them to rebound in a tight series here against Andbox, who, here we are singing the praises of Immortals. Andbox put up a fantastic series just now.
Yeah.
And yet Immortals just being able to come out on top. I mean, you already said it, Doug. So impressive.
Well, and I think as we take a look at some of the players that we highlighted at the beginning of the series, I think you're right, man. We've got to talk about the fight that Ambox brought, and roster changes, and when are they going to be able to piece it together, and is this the right combination of players that can propel Ambox to the top of North America? There's a lot of potential here, right? We highlighted JC Standy, and well, of course, when you end the game with an ace, it certainly looks good. But Mata had himself a great series too.
Yeah, I think several players on Ambox really stepped it up here. Yay, Mata specifically, I think, when we're working on the duelist conversation, we look to Ye as the battle sage. Sometimes he's going to put up numbers, and we expect that. He's a fantastic player. But when you're on these duelist roles, I feel like there is this kind of expectation that you're the guy who's going to find first blood. You're the guy who's going to, ride point for your team and shake things up, make things happen on the attack specifically. And Mata, when he's delivering, you can tell because Andbox is winning rounds. And, I think he had a really stellar performance here today and should be pleased with his performance, in the tournament as a whole.
I'd have to agree. I have good news for you folks. Immortals fans, maybe Ambox fans might not enjoy this nearly as much, but we do have Shot Up, who's going to be joining us for a post-game interview, a Verizon post-game interview. And after a performance like that, Shot Up, thank you so much for joining us. You've got to be feeling pretty good here.
I'll be honest, I'm not feeling pretty good because I did not play very well. We won, so I'll take it. But I'm not feeling good, so. But,
that's fair.
Shot Up, thank you so much for joining us. I'd love for you to take us through. Really, let's start off with Split. Lex and I were chatting during the game, and it felt like there were a couple of moments, mainly in the end of the first game, where you could feel Ambox start to play with a little swagger, right? Like they were playing aggressively, they were playing out of confidence, and it felt like that was the moment for Immortals where you had to answer the call. You had to respond or potentially lose control of the game. What were comms like? What was the team energy like and the morale in those late moments on Split?
It was pretty high, but we don't expect to lose to Andbox, so it's kind of depressing it being that close, to be honest. We expect to win that pretty easily. But everyone ended up being, really motivated because no one wants to lose, not to Andbox at least. I think our biggest problem is always confidence and adapting, and we have a hard time adapting sometimes. I think that's why we struggled, but I'm just glad we won.
Yeah, I guess kind of the question that I was going to ask maybe ties into what you just said, Shut Up, where we saw you guys stumble a little bit against Cloud9 Blue earlier today. Not that I want to sit here and talk about that series necessarily, because I don't want to depress you anymore. But I do wonder whether or not kind of what you were just saying, was that an issue, kind of being able to adapt? You guys are adding Astra into your compositions with success, seemingly. But maybe did you have some missteps there?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. We spent a lot of time retaking stuff where no one ever ended up being a lot of rounds in a row, and we needed to just stop doing that way earlier than we ended up doing, and it happened with Andbox as well, but Cloud9 Blue is right. We lost, so that's obvious. we just need to work on like just adapting our gameplay and not doing the same thing over and over, because that's what's getting us.
Shout up to follow the trend of adaptability. One of the things that's so much fun from my perspective of calling your games and your team's games is the adaptability and the versatility of this roster, where you've got somebody playing Astra one round or one map and then Jet another, and it really seems like any player on your squad can wear any hat they're asked to wear and deliver. What kind of flexibility does that offer a top tier team like yours?
I mean, it's really nice that we have a lot of players that aren't pigeonholed into certain roles. Like, honestly, I think it's kind of overblown. Like, I really don't think it's that hard to learn how to play different agents. So I mean, there's that, but it's obviously really nice to have people that aren't like, oh, I can only play this. And I think it makes it easy, and like teams don't really know what we're going to play a lot of the time, so it makes it nice, yeah.
Well, Shout Up, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the win. I know you still have a long weekend ahead of you. Best of luck in your coming matches.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Well, Lex, I mean, you heard it, right? Like, frustration is kind of what I walked away with from that interview. Like, it's depressing. We really shouldn't be losing to Ambox. It shouldn't be that close at all.
Sure.
What were some of the takeaways from you?
Well, I think, we touched on it a couple times throughout the series, and maybe even in the pregame, where it's both an asset, as Shut Up just mentioned, where teams a lot of the time probably don't know how Immortals is going to be playing on a map or what strategy they're going to be working with. But by the same hand, you could say that when it comes to comfort, confidence, if you're not feeling totally, he was laying it on a little heavy with it shouldn't have been that close to the handbox. But that said, you got to respect the fact that, like, if you're a player in that situation and you're a team of Immortals' caliber, if you aren't winning as strongly as you should be, or if you aren't, putting away a series that you feel like you should be 2-0ing easily, when you get to the why that might be, I think he summarized it pretty well for us, where it's like, okay, if we're struggling with our confidence, if we're struggling with how comfortable we're feeling as a lineup, then we don't produce the same results, and we fail to adapt. So I think for Immortals, that was actually probably a better analysis than I could have given.
Oh yeah, and you and I, like, specifically, you've talked about how much confidence has a factor in the outcome of games. So there's certainly something there. But I do think it's also worth noting Immortals, and Shot Up specifically, like, when you get used to winning, like Immortals has, I understand, like, walking away from that and going, we should have played a whole lot better. Like, I didn't play individually well. Like, we should have walked away with a bigger win. And you can just tell that winning is becoming that's the culture at Immortals. And if we're honest, that's been the case from the get-go.
Yeah. And honestly, they're one of the most fun rosters to watch play the game. So the fact that they are continuing that trend is it's a treat, man.
It really is. Let's take a look at the bracket, and then really before we do that, Lex, I'd love your thoughts. There were a ton of matches that went down today. We saw a couple of big wins. We've already sent a team home today, and I believe the other stream may still be going on as well. So there may be somebody getting sent home as we speak. What are some big takeaways for you on the day?
I think probably the way the day started with Cloud9 Blue kind of having a mostly convincing win against Immortals was the kind of an upset to me. And that's not a slight against Cloud9 Blue, but probably along the same lines as Shut Up, as I expect Immortals to be able to win series against teams that are maybe a little bit not insecure, but definitely aren't firmly at the top of the North American Valorant scene, right? And so I think this is to stay along the same lines as what we were just talking about, where Immortals is a team that I think with the new roster and then the new comps that they're running, they're scary right now.
Yeah.
Okay, they are looking incredible, and the fact that they've fallen short, once you maybe go back, watch the demos, solve some of the consistency and confidence issues that you've been working with, or working against rather, I think Immortals is going to be scary moving forward.
They certainly will be. I think a couple of big takeaways for me were really version 1 impressed, in my opinion, right? Like, they get over the hump of phase, and then they go toe to toe with Envy, and it looks really good until it doesn't. But there's a lot of things are starting to click with that roster, and you can tell they were built to win. right? Like that roster was built to win, and you see some of that starting to come together. So that's a ton of fun. And then, you know, you mentioned Cloud9 Blue. Talk about a team that was built to win, who's gone through a lot since the beginning of the game and now seem to be catching good footing, where we see Leaf and Zeta and all of those guys really come together. Let's take a look at the bracket and see exactly kind of what we're talking through. As we mentioned, Cloud9 Blue, and how far they've gotten. They're going to be matched up against 100 Thieves tomorrow, which is, man, that's going to be a good one. Xset 2-0ing BBG, seeming to continue to win after making their way towards Masters. They seem to be on a path to get right back there. As also mentioned, Envy getting the best of version 1. Meanwhile, in the lower bracket, it looks like the second elimination match is still going. Version 1 going up against Built by Gamers, and that is map 3. So once you all leave us, I highly recommend you go check that stream out. That's what I'm gonna go do. But Lex, any final thoughts? You look at the bracket. Anything stand out for you here?
I think we're this Xset Envy match, when that happens, man, like there's a few different matchups here that are just, I can't wait to see. And I think Xset Envy, like those may be the two powerhouses of the upper bracket. I know we see Cloud9 Blue and 100 Thieves, but a lot of question marks there for me on both of those rosters. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this Challengers tournament plans out, man.
It's going to be good. We still have plenty of days ahead of us, too. Let's take a look at the Aim Lab flick of the day, which was, I mean, when you get plays like this, it's just so good, right? And it was really from Asuna, as we mentioned earlier on. You see this just, like, you know, I've jokingly, you see situations like this and you go, dang, like, the grid shot is working, right? Like the time they put in Aim Labs is paying off, and with a crispy flick like that, how can you not feel good about it?
He almost wins the round too, which is the incredible part.
He does.
Nice shots, man.
He does indeed. So folks, if you want to play like Asuna, pop yourself in a grid shot after the matches tonight, and maybe you'll be able to land some shots like that. But folks, I believe that is going to do it for us tonight. We had a full day of action. We had upsets. We've already eliminated a team. Lex, any closing thoughts before we go?
None whatsoever, Doug.
Well, folks, I mentioned there's still one more match going on. Go ahead and check that out. We will be back here tomorrow on the same channels. You're not going to want to miss it. From everyone, the production team, the admin team, everyone behind the scenes, and from us on the camera with you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.